Hey guys, welcome back to In the Trenches Together. I'm Chris, this is Kyle, and that's Derek. He is our third roommate, who we've actually talked about and actually shows up in the intro of our videos. So if you're wondering what he looks like this.
I look like this guy.
Yeah, that's him. So today we're going to be talking about how the three of us met, how we came to be living together, and
what it's been like living with each other all these years.
Exactly, and how we can finish each other's sandwiches.
Well, so we were living in Logan Square because we moved to Logan Square all the way from Boston, Massachusetts.
Pretty far away.
And we were friends with another guy in this building named Louie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right? And I think we were just hanging out with Louie one time because he's a really good friend, like a good family friend. And Sean was there at this gathering in his living room. So yeah, I was like, okay, like this guy's pretty cool. Sean, like super chill guy, really funny, like really cool dude. And we were like, yeah, we should really hang out. So we met up in a park. It was in Albany Park.
Albany Park, yeah.
Right, and it was in the summer of 2013. 2013.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle was doing parkour.
Yep.
Kyle and Sean were doing
That's
parkour.
right. Yep.
And I was like, all right, that's cool. And I don't know, I didn't.
Derek
partake.
didn't want to do it. He was concerned about his hands. He was a musician, and he was like, listen, guys, my hands are valuable, and I don't want to get hurt, but what you're doing over there is cool, I guess.
I was really just like super scared, but yeah, I was scared of breaking my face, but. Okay, so then, and there was another guy that you were roommates with at the time.
Yeah, Matt.
Right.
Who was like from Texas, right?
Yeah, somewhere from the south. Like Louie knew his dad or something.
He was up for the summer or something.
He was doing a job it was like an internship. He was a great guy.
Yeah, super nice. And I remember you guys invited us, I think, to your apartment. And it was like this like super small apartment in Albany Park.
Yep.
And turned out that I found out that Matt was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then me and Chris were looking for a place to live because we were losing roommates in Logan Square.
Mm-hmm.
We had to move out of our big old house. Not enough people to fill it.
And at that time, I was looking for one roommate.
You got two instead.
You sure did. But yeah, basically, I saw an opportunity. I was like, this guy, I don't know if I really like him that much, but he needs a roommate. What if, because we were super poor musicians at the time, what if we had me and Chris move in with Kyle and turn his 2-bedroom apartment into a 3-bedroom apartment?
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty easy sell, actually, if I remember
Yeah, it was super easy.
Sort of like, well, we'll just all have loft beds, and that'll be fine.
What's interesting is I think one of you guys volunteered to go to the living room, and I don't know if you remember this. I was like, no, I'll go to the living room because I was actually in your old room.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm just going to go to the living room. And you were like, no way.
Kyle was so generous with this because he moved all of his crap into the living room.
Yeah.
Because you were like really like, oh, I'll do it, but I really would love my own space. And I was like, all right, like
such a move. But Kyle moved all of his crap into the living room, and he built like a whole bunk bed in the hallway.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's lofted like in the hallway. Like it was, I don't know how much space was there vertically.
There was
like
just enough room for me to walk. Like if TJ came in, he would have to duck
a little bit. Yeah.
And if we can find some pictures.
We'll throw them in there. It was something else, man. Because you wouldn't even realize that there was a bunk bed unless you were really looking for it, because you walk through and it just seems like there's kind of a low ceiling in the hallway, and you come through and there's just this, there's all these tools. There's like a workbench. I mean, you wouldn't actually even realize that was someone's room. You just think it's a workshop.
Right.
You know what would be really cool is if we had like a reaction segment to photos of our old place.
Yeah.
Now, what else did you do to that place? We had it just
Oh, man,
that's where it blooms.
We had a washer and dryer hanging from the ceiling in the kitchen, and the washer was tapped into the sink line. And the drain was into the sink. So if you piled too many dishes that were undone and the washer ran a cycle, it would like shoot like water off of plates into the floor.
That's true. That was the best. That was so convenient.
Because before we were just doing the laundromat, and I was like, "Whoa, why do we got to do that? We could just
just have our own.
Have our own." This is like a mini one, you know. It was like, but it worked, man. It was cool.
It was handy, man.
That was awesome.
I definitely appreciated being able to just like walk into the kitchen and do a load of laundry.
It was
be walking around in your underwear.
But the apartment was so crappy, and it was so cheap.
It was super cheap.
It was. You had like that chair on the roof.
Oh yeah. Right.
You like went out there because we were right on like a roof.
Second floor.
Yeah, right. There was like a roof right outside a bunch of the windows, which our upstairs neighbors would frequently drop appliances onto.
Oh, dude, they would
warning.
I would just be sitting at my desk, and I just see like a bunch of like white bread just like flopping down from the sky.
The white bread was one thing, but it was like sometimes it would be pans,
vacuum cleaners,
or exactly, like things that really shouldn't be dropped out of a window that make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Like a vacuum cleaner or like a
It was in Albany Park, which is like still north side Chicago, like a bit of a college town, but also like I think like top 5 most diverse zip codes like in the whole world, which is pretty amazing. Like you can just walk down the street and get whatever kind of food you want. But yeah, so that's basically a glimpse of what it was like. Kyle had his whole workshop in this living room, which was his bedroom, basically.
Sort of.
Okay, tell him about the time with the finger.
Oh yeah.
Here we go.
Well, Kyle might need to help me a little bit because he knows some of the details of the procedure better than I do. But what I remember from that experience was being home on, I don't even remember what day of the week it was. It was,
I don't know.
Maybe it was the weekend
Sunday
or something. Yeah. So I was just in my room hanging out, taking it easy, middle of the afternoon, and all of a sudden, I started hearing these horrible like yelling sounds or something, and I'm like, what is this? And I open my door, and Kyle is running from Derek's room. So actually, let me back up. The way that apartment was laid out, you come in, there's a hallway, and then if you go right to the right, there's my room, and then right around this corner is this giant living room that Kyle was using as his bedroom. All the way over to the left, there's a bathroom facing Derek's room. So Kyle had gone past my room, through the hallway, all the way over to Derek's room, saw that he wasn't there, and come all the way back to my room. In the meantime, spraying blood all over the walls because his finger was gushing. So by the time he got to my room, he'd made quite a mess in the hallway.
I think what was interesting is I went to Derek's room because I felt like I knew him more, maybe.
Interesting. This is really early on.
Yeah, it was like maybe like a month in, maybe.
About that, I think.
And I didn't really know you too much.
Yeah.
Right. There's more on to this, but we keep going with the whole running back and forth and
with this horrific trail of blood that was coating the hallway walls, he came over to my room and surprisingly calmly said, "Hey, could you help me with something?" And I could tell that something was wrong, and so I was like, "Yeah, sure." It's like, "All right, I need you to open my tool chest over there." Was it wood glue?
It was
wood glue.
Yeah.
So he's like, "All right, I have some wood glue over here."
It was CA glue, but yeah.
It's like, you're gonna take this, and I'm gonna show you how to put this like right on this cut. We're gonna seal this up so that I stop losing blood. At this point, you were like sitting on a chair. You were getting a little bit lightheaded. You were trying to like keep pressure on it so it wouldn't spray around too much. I was probably feeling a little bit more panicked, I think, than you were.
Yeah, I was trying to calm you down.
I love how like all three of us are just like laughing like after every sentence because it's such a stupid story.
Such a ridiculous situation.
But in the moment though, what were you feeling like?
Oh man, I thought it was very possible that you would die right in front of me as I was like putting glue on your finger. I could see you like passing out and I'd be like, well, and that's how my roommate died.
And I was worried that you were gonna pass out just because I'm sitting there and I'm like thinking, all right, well, if he sees too much blood, he could pass out. You know?
I wasn't worried about the bleeding so much in terms of being freaked out, but it was more just, this is a pretty critical situation. Like the amount of blood loss could be dangerous to somebody, you know, just in the ability to stay alive. So I was definitely down to do it, but I was a little like, all right, like I was in that, you know, you get into that fight or flight, it's game time mode. And I just knew, okay, I have to listen to what he's saying and make sure I do this correctly. I don't really know what I'm doing because this is just not something that I ever deal with. It's like, gotta make sure I do this right. So it's like, okay, get this glue and make sure I'm getting it right on the wound and everything. And he's like, yeah, we have, and you reassured me that it was okay because we could actually take it off later.
Right, yeah, so there was the glue, there was an activator and a debonder.
That's right.
And so the process was like, I was squirting blood, I was holding it like a compress, I was gonna take it off and it was gonna continue squirting, but Chris was gonna squirt the glue, which wasn't gonna do much, and then spray the activator, and it takes like 3 to 5 seconds to cure, and then the bleeding stops, and then if we need to remove it, like later, we just soak it in this debonder and it would come off.
Some serious like World War II.
Yeah, I forgot that detail, but now that you say that, I remember there was a 2-step process. It was a 2-step process. I was putting on a glue and I had to activate. Yeah, it was crazy.
And then Louis, did you call Louis and he came over? What happened?
So I think at some point after the immediate danger was averted, you know, we're just kind of sitting there regaining your strength, and one of us called. I forget which of us called. One of us called Louis to just let him know what was going on because I was pretty insistent that you should go to a hospital.
Right, and I at that point I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go.
You were like, I don't know. So I was thinking maybe we should get a third opinion.
You probably called Louis.
And I probably called Louis and just said, hey man, so Kyle almost died of blood loss.
Because how deep was the cut?
It cut a tendon.
Yeah.
It cut some bone. It was like halfway through.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Like you could have cut your finger off, bro.
Yeah, like it almost, you know, it was like 30% of my finger was left, maybe.
What particular horrifying device was it that caused this injury? Because there have been a few.
You know, there have been a lot of injuries, but basically what I was doing is I was using a bench grinder, which is not that big of a deal, but I was using like a wooden MDF contact wheel to sharpen a chisel.
Okay.
And what was happening is the wheel was spinning and it's wood, and it has like a sandpaper around the outside. And it's segmented. So that's not a problem when you're standing in the direction where the chisel's going away.
Yeah.
But I was actually trying to sand as the wheel was spinning in. I was pushing the chisel this way.
Sounds safe.
So it really wasn't safe, obviously. But honestly,
as we all now know.
I don't really know why they sell those, because it was something like I got from my grandpa and was like just like an extra attachment, and I was like, this is kind of cool, but it was super weird. Like you never see that on a grinder. A grinder is always like a wire wheel or like a grindstone. So it was super like niche thing, and probably why you don't see them is they're dangerous, because if you put something sharp and it's segmented, it'll catch it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Like I basically like went into the wheel to try to sharpen, and it actually like caught the chisel and it like threw it over and like contacted the other part of my hand. And I remember like the chisel was fine, but it was like bent. So it like, you know, just the force of sticking something into something spinning at 3,400 RPMs. And then it was like, you know, kind of like one of those deals. And it was so fast, you know.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, what just happened?
And then you looked at your hand.
And then
and you knew.
Yeah, that was a fun experience.
How did you guys get to the hospital? I forget. Did we drive you guys, or did you?
That's a good question. Because I
feel like someone drove us.
Probably. I feel like
maybe he dropped us off, because it wouldn't have
Louis
just
came over. It was just the two of us. Louis came over and
Derek showed up at some point, right?
Yeah. I remember Louis spending some time just like wiping the walls down, like literally going around and like wiping the blood off the walls with like Lysol or something.
It was like a horror movie. It was the stream of blood was like a good, 12 inches high, like a mini, like 16th inch. It
was a small fountain. Yeah, it was pretty horrifying. Yeah, not the kind of thing you expect to see on a Sunday afternoon.
I have photos of your hand actually while we were stitching it too.
Man, we could throw those in here. Oh, that would be amazing.
Let's do it.
Boy.
But the doctors were super pissed at you for putting the super glue.
Oh man, I remember it was this like Eastern Asian doctor, and he was like, "Debonder, what's Debonder? Like, what's super glue? Like, this isn't World War II times, you know?" And like he was like super upset, and I was like, "We can use the Debonder," and he didn't get it because, like, who knows about that, right?
Right.
And I was like, just get it out here. Like, I'll show you. So we started to, like, put it on there, and lo and behold, like, it was working. And I was like, listen, when you take this glue off, it's going to squirt. And he didn't really get it. He was like, oh, it's going to bleed, And he starts to peel it off.
It's going to bleed.
And then, like, starts shooting it, and he's like, let's get the 5x5s, and like he's like talking to the nurses, like, oh, that's really bad. And I was like, yeah, it's really bad.
I can just imagine you being like, just like blood, just like streaming from your finger at the end of all this. You're just like, told you so.
It passes out.
Yeah. I told you it would work.
And then you guys remembered when they administered that localized shot to the the inner tendon of the finger. That was like some serious
I think
pain.
I tried to forget that, but yes, I do remember that. Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal watching that.
It was so brutal. But you got fixed up, and you have some of your feeling left, right? Does it come back?
I've got like most of it there. Yeah, it's like sometimes when it's really cold outside, I feel it more there, but for the most part, I mean, who needs that finger really? Let's be real.
It's only your ring finger.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
I think that you would be able to get yourself out of any situation, like if you're in danger or something. But you guys were in the trenches together, and
that's true.
I don't know what would have happened if Chris wasn't home or something.
I would have had to self-administer.
Would you have been able to do it by yourself?
I mean, I would have had,
You would have found a way. Yeah. It would have sucked though, doing that to yourself. Oof.
So this was how long into our time living together?
Probably like a month or two.
Yeah, it was really early on, I think.
So Kyle and I weren't like, we knew each other, but we weren't really friends until like way later. So probably like 2 years, 3 years later.
Yeah.
And typically, like when I have roommates, I up until that point, I had an arrangement like we just live in the same place, but we don't really like do stuff together. I'm not sure if it was like a conscious choice, but I always remember Cal coming into my room and being like, hey, you guys should hang out. And I was
me,
like,
me doing that?
I think I remember you doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember that because we had been friends for a long time, and then Kyle and I became friends like within that first within that first year. I think Kyle and I eventually like started hanging out. I remember I think like I got you into like Full Metal Alchemist and like some other shows, and you're like, this is amazing,
Good anime.
and we started hanging out more, but the two of you weren't really like tight. And I was always sort of, like subtly like, yeah, you guys should, like hang out a little bit more or something. And
but I was totally going through like my own crap, so I was just like not. I was in my own world.
weren't really feeling it. So I just had resigned myself to the fact that I would have two roommates that I was friends with, but that just didn't really click with each other. I was like, I guess that's just the way it's gonna be. And of course, just like as soon as I'd basically accepted that, I came back I was visiting one of my friends on the East Coast. I came back. Walked into the kitchen, and the two of you were just kind of like chilling, like leaning up against the counter, like, yeah, man, just like, what is happening?
But I mean, also we should say too that you and I have been friends since since the start of college, so that's like
we'd been friends since sometime during Boston.
2008, 2007.
Yeah, right. So
I was in a band, and Chris did all the videography for the band, so we just been through a lot together in that area. But Kyle is now definitely like you're you are in like my core, my core friends, you know, like my best friends basically. So friend core. So metal. Yeah, the question that started our friendship was, this is after I had read this book that our friend Louis wrote, and the question that I asked you was, what was the most loving thing that Sean Clark did for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just like walked into his room, you know, and just said this question, and what did you say? I can't remember, to be honest.
Gosh, I don't even remember. I think it just opened up a can of worms of like, it wasn't just one answer. I was like, all right, well, if we want to talk about this, like, here's the long list of things that, you know, this is what I learned about love from Sean. And I think at that point, you know, like before, you know, you really, it's not that you didn't value what I had to say, but you were kind of in your own world. And at that point, you were like, oh, I really want to know what you have to say. And it's interesting how, you know, something like that changes.
Sure.
And, you know, I never reached out either. But when you came in and you're like, hey, you know, I really want to hear what you say. And then I had some, you know, that was something that I was really passionate about and really impacted me. You know, I just dialogued with you with that. And, you know, I think that was the beginning.
That's fascinating. Because you, Kyle, is like the benchmark for just like getting crap done in my opinion. I mean,
in most people's opinion, I think
he's just extremely focused. So, you know, I think that was just the circumstance, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know, it could be. But I'm so glad that I did. And it wasn't really my initial idea, right? I mean, it was sort of, you know, that book that Louis wrote that inspired that whole conversation, which is really, really cool. And Louis has been a really close family friend of mine for like years. Yeah, that really changed things. Because I think, too, like, we had, like, a bunch of cockroaches and stuff in our apartment.
Yeah.
And, like, we just, like, deal with, like, the problems that we
just live dealing. It was, like, super bachelor.
So...
like, no one else, like, would want to actually survive. Like, you know what? The rent's cheap.
Yeah.
And we have good food. And
we had that burrito place right underneath us, which was awesome.
We dealt with so many, like, neighbors, you know, like people like were parking and like cussing us out, and like people throwing like stuff down on the roof, and cockroaches.
Obviously, there's like plenty of people in the world who like have had it way worse.
Oh,
but it's just, but I mean, that was like it was crafty, resourceful bachelordom.
It was living on the fringe. Yeah, I think I was actually surprised. There were only a few times where any women ever came into that.
Yeah, I think maybe less than 10 total
That's
times
probably
in 3 years.
Yeah. But there were a couple of my friends
there, you know, like they still
came in. Yeah, I remember being a little bit concerned. I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. But they were actually kind of cool with it. I mean, I remember one of them was like pointing out that there was like a spider in the bathroom or something. But she's like, hey, you know, there's a spider in the bathroom. I'm like, oh yeah, we should probably do something about that. But it was just the kind of place where you're a little bit embarrassed to live there, even though it's totally worth it if you're trying to save some money and like you're not super picky, and we weren't. All living in loft beds, all, you know, kind of roughing it.
Life, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking when you mentioned the cockroaches.
Oh yeah.
Even more than the cockroaches, I think the rat was probably.
Rat.
That was the real highlight of our infestation.
So before we get into this story, it's important for me to say that like those are some of the happiest times of my life.
Oh yeah.
So even though we were living like super bachelor and like our apartment was clearly like garbage,
it was
right?
pretty bad.
And the landlord like didn't do anything right to like really make it better, but we were, I think, very hospitable in a way. Like I think it's just a solid group of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like a ton of friends come through and like
crash
in your room,
on the floor, on my recliner, in my bed, which I wasn't in because it was small, so only
like
one person.
It was like room was like 8 by 9.
It was so small.
That's the beauty of the place, is like you couldn't afford to actually have any pride because it sucked. So they're like, you just had like a natural humility of like people came over, like we were always helping people, like. You know, you were helping friends like build stuff out of your room, and I was doing the same thing.
I don't think I was really cognizant of how crappy it was, though.
Right, we just ran with it.
It was just what we became comfortable and familiar with. So to us, it was normal, even though clearly it was.
Well, we got two music school grads, so we're not necessarily like rolling in dough.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but anyways, just wanted to point that out.
That is true.
But yes, Mustafa. Let's talk about the rat, Mustafa, because this was
like a towards the end.
Yeah,
of the
that was
Albany Park
towards the
era.
end. It was last month, actually.
Yeah, well, because I feel like it went on for a long time.
It did, but because I was training for my new position.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So it was got to be in the last like 2 months, but it was like a month-long saga, maybe two.
Okay, so let's set the stage. So we're watching American Sniper in Kyle's workshop room.
Wait, you got to go before that.
What? Oh yeah, right. Okay, so Kyle is a very like he's got his rituals. I'll say
It's rhythms or whatever.
Rhythms. He's got his like epic lunchbox thing that's like military grade or something, and he packs his lunch like every night. It was like the same lunch for years.
Long time.
And
until Monica, bro.
until Monica.
If we're being honest.
Right. Yeah. So that's his wife. But okay, so you were leaving out your bags. You'd fill up little plastic
Ziploc
bags
of
of Doritos and Oreos.
Yep.
And
I would put the lunchbox on a stool, which was like a little bit shorter than the counter, and I would leave the lid open.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I remember you coming into my room, and basically being like, "Yo, have you been eating my Oreos?" And I'd be like, no, like I had no idea what you were talking about, but so like this kept going on for a while, like for probably like a few weeks, like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Was it the whole bag or was it just holes in the bag?
Yeah, there was like holes in the bag, and I was thinking, because I would get to work and I'd pull out my lunch, and I'm like, man, this bag is like ripped on the side, like some food is missing. And I was thinking, like at first I was like, oh, well maybe, like the first day I was like, all right, well maybe the bag, like got a ripped bag. And the second day I was like, well maybe the bag jostled around and ripped. And then the third day I was getting kind of paranoid. I was like, you know what, there was a bird in my truck, or there was a bird flying around my truck. I had my door open. Maybe it like landed in there. I was like trying to make excuses for what it could be. And I was like, ultimately, I was like, something's eating my lunch. I was like, I checked the bag.
Some
like,
Asian kid, just red hair, just like eating his Doritos.
And tearing out the side of the bag with his teeth,
Just, yeah. Okay.
So that was like the stage of like, the mystery was unfolding at that point.
Yeah. And then we were like, we were talking about it, and we were just like, it's got to be like a mouse or some kind of like rodent or creature or something. And we started off by you making some like hilarious traps with like a bucket, trying to like
yeah. And
I
I put like some Doritos in a bag.
yeah.
About that.
And it still got to it.
Yeah, it got to it.
Yeah,
but the
it
trap
managed
was fun.
to like sneak around. And
I think that was the moment where we were all like, okay, this thing has it's sentient. It's got intelligence. And so we were fast forward now. So like we'd notice garbage, like pizza crust, just kind of strewn about on the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
And I would literally be like, dang it, Kyle, like leave it as it's
just throwing your trash all over the floor.
For the first just like minute upon seeing this pizza crust, maybe like a few seconds.
Everywhere.
But I was like, there's no way. Like there's just no way. And I remember was this when we were watching American Sniper?
Yep.
And there's this character in American Sniper called Mustafa, who is like the enemy sniper who keeps like clipping American soldiers. And they like can't find him because he's just like impossible to catch. But so while we're watching this movie, we hear like some scratching or some like gnawing sounds in the bathroom.
And it was late. It was like 1 a.m. or something.
It was late.
So we rush to the bathroom, and there are wood chips like all over the ground, like inside this bathroom. The bathroom door was closed.
We closed the bathroom door because we had figured out by this point that most likely this dude was coming from somewhere in the bathroom. So we were trying to cut him off from getting to the kitchen because we were like, okay, well, if he can't get through the bathroom door, right, at least we'll be able to stop him from like eating all our food and destroying everything. but
so crazy.
He managed to chew through the bottom of the bathroom
literally
door.
leaving wood chips all over our bathroom floor. And I think what we did is we just like went out and we got like a bunch of traps. We got like those sticky things.
Yep, got the thwacky ones.
Yeah, the thwacky ones. Yeah. Like they actually like.
You remember those ones my dad gave me? They were like super big, and we were like setting them up. I'm like, don't touch these guys.
Yeah, right.
Could break your finger.
Yeah. Like it was super massive.
Exactly.
Ones.
Yeah. Okay, so now Kyle wasn't here.
I was on a work trip. Yeah.
Right.
But we were just hanging out. We knew it was a
a
rat.
Similar situation. So we were kind of prepared because we knew that this guy liked to strike in the middle of the night. So we were kind of expecting that sometime with the lights off, when we were kind of chilling, that he would show up somehow.
That's part of the story. Yeah.
we just knew it was a matter of time.
Let's see. So we were just hanging out. We were like playing video games or something in the middle
like
of
that.
the night.
I think we were just chilling in my room.
And we hear just like this commotion in the bathroom, just like some just like crashing sounds, all just like flailing sounds.
It's like, oh man, here he is. Let's do this.
This is a long time coming because we hate this guy. Like Mustafa has been making our lives miserable.
Been a thorn in our sides for too long.
Eating garbage, like chewing through our door, and so I like run to the bathroom, and I open the door, I turn the light on, and there's Mustafa, this freaking like juicy rat. It had to have been like this big.
He was big,
and
he'd been well fed.
There's a hole right underneath the pipe that's coming from the toilet, so it's going into the wall. And there's this like gaping hole that he's trying to climb into. And I remember I saw his tail was stuck on the sticky trap.
Yeah, we had a few sticky traps, so he was at least stuck on one of them, if not more.
And it was completely entangled around the tube, but he was like breaking free. So I was like, no, jerk. I would like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you jerk. And then, so I went up to it, and Kyle, or you put the boundaries. You put like the garbage can in the way of it, and like tried to stuff it. So he
tried to block his path.
He was like trying to avoid like being caught and like climbing a hole, but he couldn't. And I was just like screaming like crass, like I was asking for another
sticky trap. So I handed him another sticky trap.
Yeah.
And you took it.
It was like whack-a-mole. I was like, no, I was like missing him and stuff. But eventually, like I got his like face.
Yeah.
He was just like
smash it.
He was
right
like
on his face.
I'm sure it was like what? And it was I just like got like I had it like right on his like head. And I remember just like it was like covering his eyeballs, and I remember him just like literally just like looking up and then just thinking like seeing like his like face go up to me and just be like, I can't see it.
Oh man.
But and then he tried to escape and he almost escaped going the other way, and I was like screaming again like, Chris, like get me another sticky trap. And so you get me the sticky trap, and like he's like almost escaping again. And then I just like take a sticky trap and I put it on this other side of his face. So he's got 2 sticky traps on his head.
Oh my god.
And I remember I just made like a sticky trap like rat face sandwich. and at that point I grabbed him and like put all my weight on him and just like basically like stuff. That was the first time I've ever killed a mammal. I've never killed a mammal before.
Man.
It was super intense.
Yeah.
And then you took him out back or something, and
it was not the end.
I was just making sure that it was dead. It was clearly dead. I was clearly being overly dramatic. But yeah, I like put him in like a plastic bag and like took a broom and just like whacked it like a bunch.
Out back by the dumpster, just beat that bag.
So here's the funny thing that I imagine happened, because just before this thing happened, my band had like a whole.
Oh yeah.
Like we had 4 boxes full of these like suckers that had our band name on them, and they're sitting in the storage room of our building. So like in the deep basement. And I remember like I kind of check on this stuff every once in a while, but I come down one day and there are just like suckers and just like wrappers and like feces just like covering. Just like covering the whole area down there, and I can trace the rat poop and just like the garbage and stuff and the stickiness to this pipe, this hole that's like in the ground of this basement. I mean, it was like devastating. So and it's basically like just imagine like like cocaine for like all of these rats. Basically just like coming in, like eating like 4 boxes full of these suckers. Like delicious cherry suckers.
High.
I have a hunch that batch of cherry lollipops.
That's what led them.
Well, that's what fed him.
Yeah, they were just like living life, like just like loving life, eating this sugar, and then they're like, we need to find more. And I think then they found your Oreos.
Yeah. Wow.
And we're on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
They really made their way up.
I don't know. Maybe that's not true, but that's
Totally
just what
possible.
I like. That's just what I like to say to
Totally
myself.
possible.
Yeah. Anything's possible.
So, less about the stories now. I want to ask you guys just like what maybe instead of saying stories, in general, like what has it meant to you guys living with this group of roommates?
With these guys, Kyle needs to refresh himself.
Yeah, I mean,
with a cool glass of
oolong dragon tea.
Oh, I was expecting orange juice.
Like obviously we've lived with each other for a long time, and Kyle's like just recently got married, but before that we've had like we're still living with each other.
Yes, we still are.
What is that?
Yes, we realize how strange that is.
What has that meant to you?
Oh man, I feel like it's meant so much to me. As someone who just got married, I love being married. But one of the things that I most dread is just this idea of moving away, because I'm moving away from you guys in the community. And as we look for an apartment / house, like as I just think about leaving, it's just like this hole in my heart, you know? I've known Monica for less than 2 years, but I've known you guys for like 6. And so, you know, like we've talked about before on the channel, the community is a really big deal.
Yeah.
To a lot of us, all of us. And we've had kind of like our own 3 community. You know, we lived on Argyle.
Yep.
And we called ourselves the Gargiles.
The Gargoyles.
Yeah.
Now we're the G unit down here in
the
garden unit,
the garden
basement
unit.
here.
And we've kind of built this like, you know, like we've just always been together. And when you live with someone, you know, you live with Chris for maybe like 8 or 9 years or maybe more.
Feels like it.
You know, that person is like your family. And then if you think about leaving, or you know, that just it makes you sad, you know, or sentimental.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
which is not something that Kyle feels very often.
Right. I'm not a super emotional person, but you know, and at the end of the day, like I love these guys, and you know, they know that. And
well, I'll say too that I really, over the course of the time that we've met each other, I think we've all grown so much.
Yeah,
as people, you know, especially considering our humble beginnings.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen without, like, I couldn't have grown if I wasn't able to just tell you guys exactly what was going on in my life, and I wasn't just sharing like, oh, like, you know, like, sort of not really. I was sharing like pretty intense stuff. I mean, really like difficult existential like things. So, you know, obviously like Chris is like phenomenal as a friend because he just like listens so well, and I just like love talking, you know. But no, that's actually not true. I think I have been very like blessed to have a friend like, you know, you, just being able to tell you anything. And Kyle, same thing for Kyle. I mean, I literally talk about anything. Kyle's really great too at offering like the solution, you know, too. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. And actually, Kyle is the reason why I was able to like get out of debt, which is like a huge thing. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to do that. There's no way.
It was a big project for sure.
So obviously, like, it's hard to like distill everything that we've been through together in a single video. And yeah, we've got like our like ridiculous moments where someone's finger almost gets cut off and we like have to kill a rat or something. But at the end of the day, I think just like living day to day with each other has just been so important. So important.
I think it's that whole range of emotions and experiences, that we go through and encounter with each other. Just sharing that space, which is a little bit more space, was a very cramped space for a long time. Just getting to know little quirks about people, like the ways people, do stuff in their room, the things that they leave lying around, the things that they organize, and just the little eating habits. I think I'm somewhat famous for walking around with a giant glass bowl of salad and a huge wooden spoon. Kyle is famous for having bowls of cereal multiple times a day and orange juice and chocolate milk. Now he also drinks tea.
Yeah, I've been very diversified.
he's leveled up a little bit.
Leveling up.
We couldn't really help you in the culinary area.
No.
But
not as much as Monica has, certainly. But yeah, all those little things. I mean, just the stuff that you learn about people when you live with them for long enough. You know all the quirks, and you know all the great things about them, and you have that sense of comfort of just knowing that these guys are around, and you can go into their room and just see how they're doing and talk about your day and open up about whatever's going on. If you're having a rough time, they'll listen, and
we've been influenced by like other people who just really take care of others, emotionally. They're just phenomenal at that, and I think that's bled into all of our lives. Like Chris, you've always been really, you've always been like prioritizing friendship, over other things, and that's infectious. And then Kyle, you also really, really value pursuing people, and giving them, your love and your talent. So
I think one of the
that's very rare, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons that we ended up all moving here when we did a couple years ago from the Albany Park place on Argyle, was because this unit opened up here, under Louis in Louis' building. And at that time, you were spending a lot of time with Louis, and the idea of being in the same building, of being part of that same space with him and the other people who were living here, was just such a huge deal. And it was really important that you did that. And
life-changing.
And, we were all excited about that idea. And I think once we finally did, a couple of years ago, make that move, it was just amazing, just having all these amazing people. I mean, of course, we had our trio still, but now we also had people above us who we could go and say hi to. And have
zero noise complaints.
Which is great for musicians, certainly. Yeah.
But it's different. It's different when you have your friends so close by.
Yeah.
And people, they clearly, again, place that at a higher. Their relationships are higher priority than other things that are typically prioritized, I think, in America. So yeah, I'm all that to say. Just my point of view is I'm just really grateful.
Yeah.
We say this on the heels of Kyle potentially moving out, but there's more Kyle to come. You'll still see Kyle.
Absolutely.
He won't get away that easily.
But I hope you guys enjoyed some of our ridiculous stories, and I'm definitely glad to be in a video. This is super fun. If you want to share stories of that you may have had with roommates or friends, or just like really good memories, and you just want to like talk about some of those like the most loving things that people have done for you, maybe that's something you could post and just kind of show people. And
sure, yeah.
Or you could just be like, I wish I had friends, like sure, why not, and then subscribe if you liked this stuff.
Yeah.
If you
like it, if you subscribed.
If you if you want to hear more about relationships that heal and get people through the darkest moments, then click that subscribe button.
That's what we're all about.